What a sunny day we got going this morning, huh?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice out there. It was really nice this morning.
It's a dry heat, everybody.
Yeah, it's really dry. But anyway, we're going to start the service like we always do with the song called This Is the Day. And if you would please rise and join us and bring up the spirit for Reverend Karen's great message she's got planned for us today. So I'm going to get it started like we normally do, and we'll go from there.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that one. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day.
Everyone. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Sue Witter, and I'm one of the practitioners here. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be it stop and watch from home online or come here into the building. That stopping to take time and honor the truth of who you are lifts us all. It lifts each as an individual, but it lifts the world as a whole too. So thank you for taking that time. And I want to say, I am both the welcoming today and the practitioner of the day. And we have a prayer request box in the back, and I believe one out on in the bookstore. And the practitioners love to pray for you. One time we had buttons that said, "Make my day, ask me to pray." And that's really true. That's what practitioners do. We love to pray. So please, we invite you to fill out a prayer request or come up and grab me after the service for a quick prayer. So it's time for our vision statement. If you will repeat that with me. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And we'll keep the announcements short today. Spot on, spiritual practice on Thursday returns or resumes this Thursday. They took a week to honor the 4th of July. And that holiday. And for those of you who have been attending the prayer class, don't forget that. That starts immediately or shortly after we have a little bite to eat. So please join us for that. Let me see. So we have a handful of recurring things: Wellness Wednesday, and the Monday morning meditation and evening Reiki empowerment. There's an Om circle, drumming circles, you name it. We have it, even in the heat of this summer. So please just take the time to look at the announcements. They're always online. If you don't get the newsletter, sign up, and you will have all that come directly to your inbox. So it's time for us to set the tone, and the Bradfords will just allow us to go within, take a deep breath, quiet your mind, and prepare for the service.
So just take a deep breath, relax as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
And here in this quiet place, I speak a word of blessing. For I understand the extraordinary power of the word, and even magnified as a spoken word. I know that this day is an absolute day that is perfect in the mind of God. Therefore, it is perfect right here and right now. For that one power, one presence, one extraordinary experience of peace and joy, love, happiness, light, wisdom, clarity, kindness, compassion, abundance, joy, happiness, and so, so much more. That is the power that is in charge here in this moment. It is that power that lives and moves and has its being in, through, and as me, in, through, and as Reverend Karen as she gives us her extraordinary message today, in, through, and as the Bradfords as they lift our hearts and open us with their gorgeous music. That each and every person here is lifted and opened and shifted as a result of their commitment to their own spiritual well-being. So I give thanks for every person here, knowing that we are all richly blessed. And so it is. So my reading is from a book called Speak the Blessings by Joel Osteen. It's from a chapter called Miracles in Your Mouth. Listen to the words coming out of your mouth. Your words have creative power. When you speak the blessing, it works wonders. The life-changing possibilities are unlimited. The way you bless yourself is to say what God says about you. Let me say that again, to say what God says about you. I am strong, I am talented, I am healthy, I am valuable, I am a masterpiece. Those are not just positive affirmations. They are invoked they just invoked a blessing on yourself. When you speak it out loud, you give life to what you're saying. When you speak it out loud, we are giving it the right to come to pass. It is one thing to believe you're healed, but when you openly speak it out loud, I am healed, that is what releases the healing. You can think positively, you can believe you'll receive favor, you can pray for God's blessings, and all that is so important. But nothing happens until you speak the blessing. The miracle is in your mouth. There is healing in your mouth. There is freedom in your mouth. There are new levels of joy and happiness. When you release the miracle, you speak the blessing. And he goes on to say, come into agreement with yourself. Get your heart and your words going in the right direction. Start talking like things are going to happen. You have to say it before you see it. So the question is, are you speaking faith-filled words of blessing over yourself, over your family, your friends, your health, your finances? Get your heart and your words going in the right direction and just dare to say what God says about you, for the miracles are in your mouth. So take a moment and just enjoy that notion of speaking blessings over yourself. So it is.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter pat and that happy tune in your step? Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover's crossed over. If I never had a cent, I'd be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. On the sunny side of the street.
Excellent choice. Really a good song choice. Thank you, Bradfords. Good morning. Good morning, all you beautiful souls that came in on a holiday weekend to hear this message. This is an important message. I did something. I'm telling you, I couldn't wait to get here and talk to you about it because I'm all revved up, which is a good thing to happen on a Sunday morning for the minister. You want the rev all revved up, don't you? So I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. And we have been discussing this is the third week in. We're doing a 4-week series of messages on prayer and why prayer works and how it works and the scientific side of it. And so we've already looked at the idea of the different steps to treatment. The first step to treatment, as we teach it as a methodology in this little strain of New Thought Wisdom. We start by recognizing that the presence of God is right where we are. And then the second step we talked about last week, all about unifying, finding our sense of balance in that presence and knowing that we can feel that way that we are created in the image and likeness of God. And so there's something divine about us and we unify with it. And then that brings us to the third step to treatment that we're looking at today, which is called realization. And we realize, this is the part of the prayer where we use those powerful words. What a great reading. Did she do good in finding us a perfect reading for this message? Man, that really turned me on. What was it? The miracle of your mouth? The miracle is in your mouth. Oh, I wished I had made that up. I'd like to be famous for that. Because I totally, that is my life philosophy. I do love that idea. But what we're looking at is Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of this teaching, The Science of Mind, it has so many great, firm comments, and he developed his own style of affirmative prayer, and that's what we're doing in the prayer class on Sundays after the message is done. We take a little break, and there's about a dozen people, 10 to 12 people that have been attending that class, and we're looking at the way Dr. Holmes speaks to each of these ideas, and he said this: a realization of the presence of God is the most powerful healing agency known to humankind. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the way, the title of my message, in fact, is The Promised Land. I had such a good time researching the biblical stories behind this reference to the Promised Land. And you know, it's not a destination. It's not somewhere we're aiming to get to. It's not total enlightenment. It's just this idea that we can demonstrate good things in our lives. We can speak our word and see the benefit of when we truly believe good things are possible. So in a way, the Promised Land is sort of like the answered prayer. And I've been thinking so much about, you know, that idea of the answered prayer. It's, you know, I'm an old Bible fundamentalist, so I'm always reworking my old knowledge and seeing how it fits where I'm at in terms of my own changing and shifting consciousness. Where am I right now? And there's this quotation on page 28 of the Science of Mind textbook where Dr. Ernest Holmes said, you know, people ask, why does it look like God answers some prayers but not all prayers? And Holmes says this: God does not respond to some prayers more than others, but some people respond to God more than other people. Some people figure out how to be more receptive. And this third middle phase that we're looking at today of realization, realizing the truth of what you are praying about and the reality of it being touchable and real in your life and in your experience, is about being receptive, is about being willing to speak the miracle into existence. So we are looking all year at this idea of apparently our idea is now changey your world, changey our world, because somebody had fun with our sign over the weekend. So we've been talking about replacing that plexiglass. Now we have a real something to talk about. Do you think it was somebody on the board? Oh, just hit me. Oh, look, she's looking guilty already. It happens. And she thinks that she says it out loud. I'm always spewing miracles all the time. I am. So I know, but it's kind of fun. And I also think it's fun that we were vandalized, but that was the best they could do. They couldn't make it something naughty, you know. That's just kind of funny to me. But, you know, karma, you know, all about karma. So what we're looking at is the way that we change our world through the power of prayer, using our words, understanding that they're powerful, and specifically today in that realization part, the middle part of the 5 steps, we're looking at acceptance. We're looking at how do we embody the truth that we desire to experience. How do we, are you ready to receive? How do we answer that bold yes, I'm ready to receive? So it doesn't seem to matter what the spiritual truth is that you're working on, whether it's your physical health or your mental or emotional balance in life, your general well-being, which always includes your finances and your relationships and the lives of your loved ones. It doesn't matter what you're praying about. We're looking today at accepting and realizing the truth that the promised land is within our reach. And so my theme quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes that got me excited about this topic, these are the words he said in the book, This Thing Called You. The garden of your mind was planted by a wisdom that is superior to your own wisdom. enter into that wisdom that's there. Enter in and possess this promised land. So when I looked at the metaphysical definition of the promised land, it says that it's a state of mind. It's literally a divine fulfillment. A divine fulfillment, meaning it's your birthday. I'll cry if I want to. Oh, wrong song. Oh, I'm mixing metaphors terribly. Somebody stop me. Divine fulfillment is your birthright. Because you are a child of God, there are certain things we are entitled to, and we certainly are entitled to pray for our own good and to pray for the well-being of our loved ones and our country and this world and all the things we see that we worry about. So it's a state of mind, and we enter into that state of mind according to the Metaphysical Dictionary. We enter into it when we have those moments where we simply trust that in God, all things are possible. We trust God with those things that we know that our every need is met in the way that we are biblically encouraged to play with all of this material in our own mind. So we trust God. A lot of us are really good about, trusting God and talking about it and demonstrating our faith. But my biggest problem, I don't know about you, my biggest problem is convincing myself again and again and again that I still trust God, even when something goes a little sideways. So as I looked at this idea of the promised land, I had such a fun week researching the biblical stories that are in the first few books. And by the way, I gave you a misquote at breakfast that really embarrasses me today. I'll tell you later. It's not the Torah, it's the Talmud that I was trying to name, not the Torah. And yeah, I had breakfast with Sue yesterday, and I was so excited because I was right in the middle of putting this all together. And I've been researching those first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, and also the Torah, which yesterday I said, it's not the Torah. People are so silly. They misunderstood. But I was thinking of the Talmud. Were we arguing? I missed it. Damn it! I love a good argument every now and then. It's hard living alone when you used to be able to get it on in that way. Okay, so the trouble starts in Egypt. Moses is freeing the slaves from Egypt, and they're having this journey, these 40 years through the desert. You guys have all heard bits and pieces of it, and if you haven't heard, you may have seen that movie, The 10 Commandments, maybe even more than a couple times, and Charlton Heston and all that. Do you know that Dr. Ernest Holmes was in the LA area at the time they were making that movie, and he was well known, and they consulted him for biblical reference for references for in their putting together the movie, and so he has a little fingerprint in it somehow, and I find that exciting. But we're looking at an account that happens towards the end of the 40 years. So now imagine, here's some of the historical, and by the way, it is historically validated that the slaves were freed and that there was someone, maybe Moses, it looks like it could be credited to someone named Moses, but that there were about 600,000 people that Moses now is taking on this wilderness journey, and they're looking for the promised land. And so a lot of things, if you saw that movie, The 10 Commandments, a lot of things go wrong, like bad weather and frogs and bugs and bloody rivers and stuff. And now and some of this story is legend, not all of it is historical. We know there was a group of 600,000 people that left Egypt and were looking for the promised land. And so they're at the end of the 40 years. Moses has put up with a lot of stuff because the people get cranky every now and then because it's hard they're living this nomadic life. Imagine they don't stay in any one place very long. And in 40 years, 600,000 people became 1 million people, and some historical scholars suggest it might have been as many as 2 million people because their city, like all populations, kept growing in those 40 years. And they're traveling with livestock and everything they can carry, and they're, being fruitful and multiplying, and God's providing the manna, and they're going through rough times. And now finally they get to where they're getting pretty close to finding the promised land. And something goes horribly wrong. It's a drought. They're in a region called Zin, Z-I-N, and they cannot find water, and they need water. We know this. We need water to stay alive. And so they got a big predicament, and the people are going to Moses, and they're complaining, and they're grumbling, and they keep saying to Moses this often repeated line, "Why did you bring us into this barren wilderness?" They get mad, they get scared, and they start turning on each other. And so Moses goes to God, and God says the most incredible thing. Are you listening? You're just waiting for me to mess up again, aren't you? You're hoping I'll, I think I got it from here. So the most incredible thing happens. Moses goes in prayer to God, and God tells Moses, here's what you got to do. You got to take your rod, and you got to have him make really good music, and you got to get his wife to do the backup singing. It said take your rod. It said that in the Bible. It says take your rod. It must have been about you, right? Yes. And so what he really said was take your rod. Some Bible interpretations say his staff. So God said to Moses, get your brother, take your staff or your rod, and gather up the people. And then as you're reading the scripture, it's as though God is pointing, and he says, and then bring the people, get the people together around this rock, and then you speak your word. And when the water flows, the people will witness a miracle, and they will believe. You will sanctify my name, and they will believe again. They will quit grumbling. So now imagine you're Moses, and you got a lot of stuff on your shoulders and a lot of things you're worried about, just trying to get the people safely to the promised land. And he's getting old now. He's getting up there in years. And they're grumbling, and they're sort of name-calling and picking on him, and they're triangulating behind his back. They're doing all those things that happen to great leaders. And he's annoyed with them. So he tries to do what God has asked him to do. He goes and he tells Aaron, he takes the staff, they gather the people. Imagine they're trying to pull about 1 million people together. Now only the people in the front few rows are going to be able to see this miracle that's about to happen. And then Moses speaks, but he's not very happy. And he says to the people, he scolds them. He says, listen up, you rebels. Listen, you rebels. Must we bring this water out of this rock for you? And then he raises his hand with the staff. He raises the staff and he hits the rock 2 times, and water just miraculously pours out of the stone. And the people are amazed, and they go and they're drinking, and they back up and they let other people come forward, and there's no end to the water. There's plenty for everybody. And then they bring their livestock so that their livestock can be hydrated as well. The problem is, in the very next scripture, we're looking at Numbers in about the 20th chapter, Genesis, Exodus, the 4th book of the Bible, Numbers, and about the 20th chapter, in the very next verse, after he hits the stone and the water gushes out, God says to Moses and Aaron, because you did not show faith in me, and you did not sanctify me before the eyes of the people, you shall not lead them into the promised land. I have to tell you, as a Bible fundamentalist, this passage has always bothered me. I can't even tell you how many times, if he was here, I'd be going, right, honey? He'd be sitting right over there. Right, honey? I would say to him, I don't understand. Why did God not let after all Moses did, why did he not let him enter into the promised land with the people? He did all the hard work, he and Aaron, his brother. And my husband would always say to me something like, it's because he disobeyed God. And so now here I am, like a lot of decades later, where I've still been pondering, why did that happen in that way? And I don't think it's that clear in the biblical reference. And so I'm Googling it, because you can Google anything. And I'm reading now what all these different Bible scholars, how they translated what the symbolism in all of that meant. And I found some really important stuff. And what I understand is, I think that Moses got the short end of the rod. I'm so proud of myself today. God said, go, speak, right? The reading that Sue just did. Speak, say your words out loud. He did not say, hit the rock. And there's something about the way that in his anger, he took that staff and he hit the rock 2 times. And he even said to the people, why do I have to do this for you? Now, I totally understand his frustration. As a spiritual leader who's been through a pandemic, I can tell you that your frustration is hard sometimes. It feels sometimes like, but I'm giving you all I got every Sunday. Why isn't it helping? Right? So you take the burden on, and Moses had taken the burden on, and then he was angry at the people. And so he hits the rock, and God's voice was not sanctified. The spoken word was not the miracle. It now looked like Moses performed the miracle, and it wasn't ever supposed to be Moses's to do. So I understand that frustration, because I experience a level of it in ministry. All ministers do. From time to time, we too get overwhelmed. We're living in the same world, and we're still human. It's not like that. I wake up on top of the sunny side of the, how does that go?
Sunny side of the street.
Yeah, it's not like I wake up on the sunny side of the street every day. I have to do my work just like everybody else. And so recently, I was out with Reverend Clyde, and we started talking. I didn't know I was going to be giving this particular message, but we were talking, and I said to Reverend Clyde, he said something about, I think we were talking about the debate. And he said something, and then I'm watching him, and I said to him, sometimes I get tired of feeling like I'm the only one. It feels like I'm the only one that's willing to stand for truth and for good. And I was kind of mad at him. It was like me striking the rock and yelling at him, like, why do I got to do all the work? You're the assistant minister. Share the load here with me. Give me some place to breathe here. And it was really a fabulously important talk, so that I could hear my own voice in the way Moses may have benefited from hearing his own voice at a time like that. Because I was telling Reverend Clyde that it seems to me that people, not my community necessarily, all people, it seems to me that people have more faith in what could go wrong than in standing for truth and aligning to God and harmonizing with good. And so it reminds me of being a fundamental Christian again, where we truly demonstrated we had more faith in Satan, the devil, than we did God, because we were scared all the time. Especially in an election season, because it was certain Armageddon would come during an election, because there's so much fear in the world. You can feel the fear, right? So, I know I'm not the only one, and yet that can be the feeling of watching everybody grumble and watching how frightened the world is, knowing that there are people who would rather watch the evening news than take a minute and just pray to have hope within your own heart for the world. See, we don't have to pray to heal the world. We have to pray to heal our own hearts. We have to pray to have vision, to see things from a higher perspective, a different perspective. And so I'm researching this material, and I'm sometimes I get frustrated because I do believe with all my heart, you hear me say it every Sunday, we are creating a new world, and we are doing that right now. And the way that we do our part is to stay prayed up, is to listen to it's something inspirational that will give us a 15-minute break from all the stuff that we worry about on a regular basis, but to do our own work and learn to pray in a way that is affirmative and positive. And so I'm having this, I'm doing this research, and I'm having this amazing moment of this great aha idea that, oh, it's okay, I don't have to have it all figured out. Moses didn't have it all figured out, right? And I don't need any physical promised land. I'm doing all my work now, and I'm content with, I know I live my life on purpose. I'm very satisfied with that. And so I'm having sort of this almost a miraculous shift in my own perspective. And suddenly, I remembered a tiny event, a true miracle that had happened in my own life about 10 years ago, right here in this center. I was feeling spread pretty thin. I was feeling the weight of trying to be a spiritual leader and take care of everybody's needs. And I was wondering, why is it people will come up to me and they'll tell me about this amazing thing that happened in their life, and that so-and-so from another place told them, and when I know I've said it to them like 12 times in the last 6 months, but they didn't hear me say it, but they can go somewhere else and come back and tell me how great it is that so they got wisdom from somewhere else, and I don't understand how all this works, but then I pray myself back to be balanced and to know that it doesn't matter, that the end result is that you wake up and you figure out these little things. And then I remember that 10 years ago I was sitting in my office thumbing through this book. This is a book, a John Bartlett book of familiar quotations. And I got this book from the archives when I was going to school in San Diego. I graduated from the San Diego campus in 2007. They moved the archives, and they were getting ready to move the archives to Denver in 2010. That was when we bought that building in Golden, Colorado. And they couldn't afford to ship all the books, and so they invited ministers in Southern California. It was such a privilege. And they said, bring a box, and for $5, you can have as many books as you can fit in that box. In fact, bring more than one box. And so I did. Me and my senior minister drove down there with several boxes and lots of $5 bills. And we just picked through those books. And by the way, they said to us, and some of those books may have belonged to Dr. Ernest Holmes. Some of those books may have come from his personal library, and I was really intrigued with that. Every book I brought home, I wrote in pencil, Archives 2010, so I would remember exactly what books came from there. Now, fast forward to 2014. I'm the senior minister here. We're planning a fundraiser. We're going to have a silent auction, and I'm looking through my valuables at home. What things are precious to me could I donate to the silent auction? What kind of items might bring in a big ticket, big, get a bidding war going? And I thought I would donate this book, and I had it here in my office, and I have a helper that's helping me price a massive amount of materials. It's an overwhelming big job. And I'm thumbing through this book, and a note fell out of it. This note. And it is a note from Dr. Ernest Holmes from a time when he was sitting in his personal library in his home, reading a book of quotations, and he was inspired by something he read. I'm not sure what it was. I know what page I found the note on. And his handwriting is very distinct. And I have had this authenticated, so we know, and I've had it framed in a proper way. And I keep it in my office. And one day, if I don't talk somebody into having it cremated with me, one day I have committed that to home office that I will send it to them in the way that it is. The note is hard to read. And in fact, the very first line of what he was pondering and thinking about is gone. It was either eaten by the mice or just worn away from age. But it says something like this. They, meaning the people, I'm guessing. Well, he is talking about the people. They don't know what to do with their togetherness. Right? Sometimes we don't know how to be together. Look at how divided people are in the world right now. They don't know what to do with their togetherness. It is their apartness, the way we separate and isolate ourselves, not only from each other, but the way we are separate from God, or we think that we can be separate from God. He says, it is their apartness that gives them issues to champion. Can you feel the poetic movement of his words? And then he says this, should we rob them of their ammunition? And when we finally deciphered those words and were able to see that's what he wrote, I wept. Because these are the same things that I cry about when I'm alone and I'm worried about the well-being of my community or the world. He had a Moses moment, in my belief, in the same way that I have those Moses moments, where you just feel the weight of the world. I have been pondering that quote for 10 years now. And I am increasingly convinced that a crucial part of our work, and I say it to you all the time, I am emphasizing it in the prayer class I'm teaching, a crucial part of our work is to be willing to look at our issues. Did he not say repeatedly, look the discordant fact in the face? Yes, he did, if you don't know. But we have to learn to look without grumbling. We have to learn to have moments, take advantage of those moments when we can see from a higher perspective. We cannot move day by day in this doom and this gloom in the way that we're feeding more darkness rather than light, because doom and gloom do not promote our well-being. But doom and gloom and those scary moments are the very calls to prayer that we can open our hearts and we can use the spiritual tools that we have been so generously given, that we study and we practice, that we believe in. Yes, it feels like the sky is falling. I just said this week, because we had an incident in the back of the sanctuary and it interrupted our day, and Kay Fontana and I are here trying to get our normal workload done, and we're standing looking at a huge hole in the ceiling where some kind of a leak caused one of the panel, no, it wasn't a pipe, but one of the tiles fell, and we have this new carpeting, and we're standing there looking at each other, and I looked over at Kay and I said, Kay, sometimes the sky really is falling. Right? Sometimes things really are falling, and that's when it's time for us to take action. That's when we do what we have to do. We do whatever's in front of us. We have, as a community, we have demonstrated that again and again and again, and I know that we will continue to demonstrate it. Did it ever make up? I forgot to look. Did the quote make it up? Oh, good. So you got to see it. Good. I thought for sure I would be on top of that one. But I understand that the way life works, when we have separated ourselves from our good, we are not happy. We are not happy. And it doesn't take any kind of scientist or behaviorist or psychoanalyst to prove it to us that we're not happy. You know when you're not happy. And you can use that unhappiness to be the very thing that helps you find that some kind of a crazy fortitude to change your mind. And I do think that there are times where it requires some kind of crazy fortitude for us to be willing to change our minds, because the mind is pretty strong in addressing what it wants to. Prayer is the most vital and important spiritual tool we have. In their apartness, in the way that they separate from each other and they separate from God, he says, it's that apartness that then gives them the issues they can look at, they can champion. Should we rob them of that? In other words, I think he's saying it's not my job to save anybody. I know that. Intellectually, I know that. I've been schooled well. And yet, sometimes we can't help it. We really just want to help each other so much that we cross lines and we don't give people a chance to figure out their own well-being. And we don't learn it till we figure it out. And so when we use our issues to return to prayer, we return to God. We reunify. We recognize that power and that presence. We reunify with God, and we have returned ourselves to love. There is work to be done, there's no question. And each of us has been called to do that work. So when Kay and I were standing in the back looking at the ceiling, that the ceiling had fallen, I had to step away and get myself prayed up because I got overwhelmed with oh, not another problem. Because the building's old, stuff happens. But when in my prayer, when I stepped away to pray, I did not pray for somebody else to clean up the mess. I did not pray for it to magically repair itself. I did not pray for nothing worse to happen. I prayed to change my own perspective. There's a power and a presence in me, and I need to call on it right now, because what I think I see is a big old mess. And all kinds of scary things are connected to it, because at that time we didn't know exactly what was wrong, and it ended up being something much simpler than it looked like. And in fact, it might indeed even be a problem we've had since before I arrived at this church, because it's the same place where the roof would always appear to leak. Ernest Holmes says this, and this is very personal and beautifully written. You may not reach your city of good in a single day. Right? You may not get to your promised land just because you did one quick prayer. But that city of good, its image out there in your desert, this is so personal to us because we live in a desert. That image out there in your desert is not a mirage. So remove the mental blocks that stand in the way. Remove those blocks one by one. What thought has done, thought can undo. And here's what I know for sure. And somebody said, I think it was Kathy Bradford said before the service, you cannot enter the promised land when you're focused on only what's wrong. This is where we have to be careful in this kooky world we're living in. You cannot enter the promised land when you are worried, when you are afraid, when you are concerned about how crazy everything is in the world. So the prayer for something practical that happens in this building, my prayer was not to fix the problem. It wasn't about cleaning up the mess. It was for me to remember that in God, this is not a problem. Yes, we will do some work around it. Yes, we will get the building looking good again. Yes, we will fix the sign. Remember that opening quote, that theme quote. There is a garden of your mind that is seeded with a great, magnificent wisdom. Enter into that wisdom. Step into this space, and then you will possess the promised land. Pray to see God wherever you are with whatever's going on. Hope is not a mirage in the desert. It's a way that we are called. Our willingness to see goodness is a way that we are putting our demand on the law. We are using the power of our word. We're like Emma. Lord, show me the words to make the world glad and sane again. Ways to remember I'm strong in the Lord and the power of his might. This is what we need to get through difficult times where you're having trouble convincing yourself that really everything is going to be okay. It is absolutely normal that we should be shaken by the things we see going on in the world right now. It is absolutely normal because it is simply a part of the human condition. And if we didn't see that and if we didn't feel the ache of it, we wouldn't be very kind people. So I go back to that reading that Sue did. That was so incredible. And by the way, I printed that as a handout for my prayer class. So those of you in that class will get a copy of it. You have miracles in your mouth. We have miracles in our mouths. And your words have the power to change your life. Moses didn't enter the promised land because God told him to gather the people and to just speak to the rock, to use his word. Use the creative power of speech. And we are invited to do the same. The name of that book that Sue quoted is Speak Your Blessing, but it has a subtitle that says, Send your words in the direction that you want your life to go. I want to close this morning with a quote from the chapter we're using today in the prayer class from Can We Talk to God by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Let us be receptive to the divine nature so that it may flow into our everyday living. Be open. Be receptive. New arts, new sciences, new religions, better government, and a higher civilization are waiting on your thought. The pent-up energy of life and the possibility of human evolution work through our imagination and our will. The time is ready. The place is where we are now, and it is done unto all of us as we believe. And that's what needed to be said today. Take a breath. Take a holy breath. For a moment, we just lay all those ideas and thoughts, we lay them down, let them fall around us as they may. And we open ourselves to the miracle of creative speech, the words of prayer. Together, we remember that there's no place where God is not. And therefore, the fullness of Spirit itself, the absolute, the almighty presence of the Holy Spirit is right here, right now, in this very room and wherever you may be listening from as you hear these holy words. I feel the love of God within me, and I recognize it as an activity of life. It is all the potential of the future for humanity. It is that holiness that takes the past and the future, and it blends everything all together so that we can see the richness of the present moment. So we recognize that we are here now. And the use of these words call us back to the truth of our being, so that we feel that love within us, that we sense a quickening in our being. It is the way that Spirit works to reveal the holy truth of our divinity, that in God all things are possible. So there is nothing that can block us from our good but our own confused thinking. So we straighten our minds, we change our minds. We stand in the presence of life, and we appreciate the holiness of all of it. And we allow ourselves for just a tiny moment to not see what is wrong or broken or less than, but instead we see the radiance of love. We see the divine order of the way the planets and the stars stay in perfect order, constantly rearranging things, and the way the planet itself recuperates from wounds and disorder and discord. Because there is a perfection in life that demands that we be healed by allowing life to reveal the higher order to us. So we clear our vision, we cleanse our minds, we choose the direction in which we will look, and we open ourselves to be expecting to witness the good, to see the way miracles show up, that a precious writing could be found by a minister at a perfect time, that it would be a moment of inspiration that would be spoken about a decade later. I feel the love of God as that guiding light in my own life, and I know it is the same truth for each and every person within the sound of my voice, that miracles are unfolding even now. And if we look back at our lives and start gathering the miracles we've experienced, we would see it is a mighty mass of gifts that have been freely given. So this moment right now, we open ourselves so that we can be receptacles to receive the grace of God, to allow that grace to stream into our lives, to expand out and to touch our loved ones and our family members. It heals what ails us. It is the very essence of life that keeps us living. It is the confidence that we can stand in, that we can raise our heads in the glory of God and know that we have been called exactly to do this work, and so we do it. For it is not hard when we remember. It is not our strength. It is not our strength, but it is a mighty strength and power. So in God, yes, all things are possible. I give thanks for this revealing, these revelations that have flowed through this day. And I give thanks for a teaching that assures we will always have tools and skills and abilities, and that the more we practice, the better we get, and that we too can be a part of making the world a better place. I am grateful to remember these truths yet again. And so I simply release the words of this powerful prayer. I release these words into that dynamic law that always responds affirmatively. Yes, my child, yes. I let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace, that gratitude That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Thank you, Bradfords, and thank you, Reverend Karen, for a fabulous message. So appreciate it. Yeah. So I want to say before we do our giving affirmation, there's an announcement that wasn't on the list, but I'm going to start it now. So I take my oral panels for my licensure as a minister here with the Center for Spiritual Living on August 21st. And at that point, you will be able to officially and legally call me Rev. And so we're going to have a party on when? The 1st? September 1st, whatever the first Sunday is. And I want you all to come. And for those of you who know me, inviting you for even going to a party, there would have been a time in my life where you'd have had a party for me and I might not have come. But I'm excited for this one. So please hold me in your prayers on the 21st, but come on the 1st of September. Yay! Anyway, so I am so grateful for you all. I would not have gotten to this point without you. So thank you. So now it's time for giving and receiving. Please take your gift in your hands if you have it. We have boxes on the way into Papke Hall, one in the back and one out in the bookstore area. So take it in your hand, put it over your heart if you have it with you, or just put your hands on your heart and say the affirmation with us. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Please rise for our last song. About my problems, I'm living now, I'm living now, and I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now, I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, it feels so good to be alive.
Woo! Yay! Woo! All right, one quick thing. Take a moment, give a hand to Jillian back in the back. This is her first time all alone in the sound booth. Well done. It was perfect. Well done. And it takes a lot of courage to do that all by your little old lonesome self. So well done. So now I want you to take a moment and think about what God says about you. How does God describe you? Because It says here, the way you bless yourself is to say what God says about you. So say with me, I am strong. I am talented. I am mighty. I am healthy. I am valuable. I am a masterpiece. And so it is.